Have you ever wondered what it would be like to inherit a wild horse sanctuary? Imagine opening your mailbox one day to find a letter that changes your life forever. In the quiet town of Millbrook, New York, 38-year-old Sarah Thompson led a simple life as a librarian. Her world revolved around books and the occasional visit from her elderly neighbor, Mrs. Rosewood. On a crisp autumn morning in 2018, Sarah discovered an envelope with unfamiliar handwriting among her usual bills and catalogs. Curious, she opened the letter at her kitchen table, where the ticking of the old wall clock was her only company. The contents left her breathless. According to the letter, she was the sole heir to Eleanor Blackwood, a 92-year-old woman she had never met. The inheritance? Sprawling 1,800-acre wild horse sanctuary in Montana. Sarah read the letter again, confusion etched on her face. Why her? The answer lay in the next paragraph. Eleanor had been a dear friend of Sarah's late grandmother, Grace. Years ago, Grace had supported Eleanor through a devastating loss, standing by her side when everyone else had abandoned her. Though Sarah had never known Eleanor personally, the old woman had cherished her family's kindness until her final days. With no children of her own, Eleanor chose Sarah to continue her life's work, protecting and preserving wild horses. At first, Sarah laughed in disbelief. She knew nothing about horses or ranching. Her expertise lay in organizing books and helping patrons find obscure titles. But as she sat in her quiet apartment, staring at the letter, she felt an inexplicable pull. It was an opportunity to escape her predictable routine, to honor her grandmother's memory, and perhaps find a new purpose. After a restless night filled with dreams of galloping horses, Sarah made a decision that would alter the course of her life. She requested a leave of absence from the library, packed her car with essentials, and set off towards Montana, leaving behind the familiar streets of Millbrook. The journey to Big Sky Country was long, giving Sarah plenty of time to second-guess her decision. What did she know about running a sanctuary? How would she manage such a vast property? These questions swirled in her mind as she drove through states she had only read about in books. As Sarah approached the Blackwood Sanctuary, her anxiety gave way to awe. The Montana landscape stretched out before her, a tapestry of rolling hills and distant mountains. When she finally arrived at the property, the sight that greeted her took her breath away. Dozens of wild horses roamed freely across the golden plains, their manes flowing in the wind. Some grazed peacefully near weathered wooden fences, while others galloped in the distance, kicking up dust in their wake. The sheer beauty and power of these animals left Sarah speechless. A weathered pickup truck approached, and from it emerged Jack Hawkins, the sanctuary's caretaker. His sun-weathered face and calloused hands spoke of years spent working the land. He greeted Sarah with a nod and a firm handshake. "So, you're Eleanor's heir?" Jack said, his eyes assessing her. "She mentioned you'd come someday, though I had my doubts." Sarah explained her situation, her lack of experience evident in her nervous tone. Jack's expression softened slightly. "These horses don't need an expert. They need someone who cares. Eleanor believed you had that in you." Over the next few days, Sarah explored the sanctuary in a daze. The horses kept their distance, but she could feel their curious gazes following her. For the first time in years, Sarah felt a spark of excitement, a feeling that she was on the brink of something extraordinary. The learning curve was steep and often frustrating. Jack patiently showed Sarah the basics: how to distribute hay, check water troughs, and move cautiously around the horses. There were countless details to absorb about veterinary care, feeding schedules, and land management. Sarah made plenty of mistakes. She misjudged distances when spreading hay, misinterpreted the body language of the horses, and once narrowly avoided being kicked when she startled a skittish mare.
Ooh!
Each error left her feeling inadequate and out of place. But as the days passed, Sarah found herself captivated by the rhythm of life at the sanctuary. In the evenings, she would sit on the porch of the small ranch house. Watching the herds move across the landscape bathed in the golden light of sunset, there was a timeless quality to the scene that soothed her soul.
Ow.
One night, as they shared coffee in the cozy kitchen, Jack spoke softly. "These horses gave Eleanor a reason to live after she lost her family. Maybe they can do the same for you." Sarah pondered his words, realizing that the quiet contentment she felt here was something she had been missing in her life back in Millbrook. Just as Sarah was beginning to feel more confident, disaster struck. A severe spring storm swept through the valley, bringing howling winds and freezing rain. Sarah and Jack worked tirelessly through the night, struggling to guide vulnerable horses to shelter. When dawn broke, Sarah found a young filly collapsed in the mud, its breathing labored. Panic gripped her heart. She had never faced a life-or-death situation like this before. With trembling hands, she wrapped the filly in blankets and knelt beside it, whispering words of encouragement. Jack worked quickly, preparing a warm mash and coaxing the filly to eat. Hours passed before the young horse finally stood on shaky legs and nickered softly. The relief Sarah felt was overwhelming. Tears streamed down her face as she realized how deeply she had come to care for these animals in such a short time. In that moment, she knew she was no longer just a visitor. She belonged here, with the horses and the land. As weeks turned into months, Sarah settled into her new role. She rose with the sun, mended fences, distributed feed, and walked the pastures. She learned to recognize each horse by sight: the proud black stallion with a white star on his forehead, the mischievous palomino who always tested the boundaries, the gentle bay mare who mothered the younger foals. The work was physically demanding, but Sarah found it deeply satisfying. Her days were filled with purpose, and the loneliness she had felt in her old life began to fade. The sanctuary was alive with the sounds of neighing, thundering hooves, and the whisper of prairie grass in the wind. Visitors came to the sanctuary: school groups, local ranchers, and wildlife officials curious about Eleanor's legacy. They were often surprised to meet Sarah, a former librarian with dirt under her nails and hay in her hair, speaking passionately about the horses as if she had known them all her life. In the evenings, Sarah would often climb a nearby hill to watch the stars emerge over the vast Montana sky. She would think of her grandmother Grace, wondering if she could see how much her life had changed. "I think I've found my place in the world," Sarah would whisper to the night air. As autumn approached, the sanctuary had become Sarah's whole world. She implemented new conservation practices, established educational programs for visitors, and set up a fund to ensure the long-term care of the horses. The filly she had saved in the storm grew strong and spirited. Sarah named her Phoenix, a symbol of rebirth and resilience. Jack, observing Sarah's transformation, would sometimes shake his head in wonder. "Eleanor knew what she was doing when she chose you," he'd say with a smile. Sarah no longer doubted her decision to leave her old life behind. The comfort of her library seemed a distant memory compared to the fulfillment she found in caring for these magnificent creatures. Years passed, and Sarah Thompson became known as the woman who inherited a horse sanctuary and found her true calling. Under her care, the Blackwood Wild Horse Sanctuary thrived. It became not just a haven for horses, but a place where people came to learn about conservation, compassion, and the profound connection between humans and animals. Sarah never returned to her life as a librarian, but she brought her love of learning to the sanctuary. She wrote books about the horses, their histories, and the importance of preserving wild spaces. Her quiet strength and dedication inspired others to support the cause of wild horse conservation. Standing at the fence line, watching Phoenix lead a group of young horses across the sun-drenched meadow, Sarah felt a deep sense of gratitude. She thought of Eleanor Blackwood, the woman she had never met, but who had changed her life with a single act of faith. "Thank you," Sarah whispered to the wind. "For the land, for the horses, for giving me a home I never knew I needed." With that, she turned towards the setting sun, ready to continue Eleanor's legacy. Not as a librarian, not as an outsider, but as a guardian of the wild. Her heart beating in time with the hoofbeats of the horses she had come to love,